We have our someone technical here because I forgot to turn on the sound
Yeah,
system.
there we go. Sorry about that.
All right, so all of you at home, you just missed our story. We've been married for 22 years. That's a short story. Anyway, we have a handout that every couple should have gotten on the way in. We've got resources and ways to follow us on the front here. And then our presentation notes on the other side, and the order that the speakers will be going in and the different love languages. We have a few announcements and resource suggestions to start with tonight. Then we will turn it over to our couples for their presentations. After that, we'll give you some couples time to discuss what was presented and take the love language quiz. Bet you guys didn't know you were taking a test tonight.
Pop quiz.
Then we will come back together for some closing remarks and prayer.
And first off, we'd like to start with our thank yous. And we'd like to thank the Queen of Peace for all the use of the facilities here. We'd like to thank the Kamitsky Foundation and our Queen of Peace Knights of Columbus Council for their donations to support our events throughout the year. And we also want to thank all of you for making the time to join us tonight. We know it takes an effort to make time to attend, whether you're here in person or watching online. You are investing in your spouse and marriage just by being here. Keep up the great work.
SALT stands for Savoring a Lifetime Together. Sometimes it's hard to savor and enjoy something when you feel like you aren't loved. Tonight we're going to share the 5 love languages with you. Hopefully it will shed some light on what actions make you and your spouse feel loved. Then the task starts of learning how to incorporate that into your daily lives. Our goal is to give you the tools that you can use to build a strong marriage, no matter where you are in your stage of life. But we need your help. We need to know what tools you might be missing, subjects you could use, instructions on, even the messy, difficult, awkward subjects. We always need more couples to help us with ideas and events. We would love to have you be a part of the team. So I started listening to the Bible in a Year podcast with Father Mike Schmitz. I started late, and I don't listen every day, so I'm only on about day 25. He does a little bit of explaining and reflecting on the readings from the day, and so far in Genesis, there is a theme of families and marriages being broken and messy. Doesn't that still describe us now? We are human, and we are still broken, and things and relationships are messy. But with God's help and grace, we can keep trying to love our spouse, our family, and those around us. It might still be difficult, messy, and a bit broken, but it will turn out beautiful. Check out the Bible in a Year podcast. I've learned so much from the explanations that go along with the readings. So it's good for you to do things as a couple, and it's okay for you to do things and have separate interests on your own. In January, I got a little carried away. I love to share resources, so I just wanted to throw them all at you. So we have more on our handout and interactive PDF that's posted online. But tonight we're going to limit ourselves to 4 things. Even though he said it should be 5 since we're doing the 5 love languages.
I tried. I really did.
So these are things you could do on your own or as a couple, kind of depending on what they are. So future SALT events.
This counts as 1, just by reminder there, okay?
There are some sub-points here, sorry. So details are still being set for events, and more will be added throughout the year as we go. So it's important that you watch the bulletin and sign up for our SALT newsletter and follow us on Facebook. So we have our soup supper here at Queen of Peace next Friday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. The soup supper is free to everyone. If you are interested in donating a soup or helping us serve, please let us know as soon as possible. And then you're also welcome to hang around for stations at 7 o'clock.
I promise the soup won't be too salty either. So.
The Consecration to St Joseph is another thing that the SALT group is running. So this is what the book looks like. This event is for anyone, so married, single, families, whatever. We'll start on March 30th. We're going to meet every Monday from 6:30 to 8:30 here in the gym, with our consecration date being on May 1st, so the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker. There's also a pilgrimage you can register for that's on May 1st that goes from St. Joe's, Mishawaka to St. Joe South Bend. So that's pretty fascinating too.
It's a little bit of a long walk, though.
And I will share it. I will share it on our Facebook page. But they have points where you can kind of jump in to make the walk shorter if you have a family.
Yes, Shane?
So we're meeting on Mondays.
Yes, we're meeting on Mondays, but the first one's going to be on the Tuesday.
No.
Did I say that wrong? The 30th, whatever the 30th is.
So we're going to meet on Mondays. The 30th is the start of the consecration. So we'll meet the night before the actual start date. It all kind of plays out. It's okay. One of the other events. Well,
Show up on the 30th. We'll be here.
no, we won't be here.
What? We will.
No, the consecration starts on the 30th. Our first meeting is the Monday before that.
Okay. So sorry about that.
Just email me if you're interested. I'll make sure you have all the dates. All right, so a couple of other things that we sort of are thinking about and working on. A bird watching walker date, again. We're going to go ahead and open up this one to families since we'll be outside at a park. We haven't decided what park and we haven't decided when yet, but we will have someone give a little bit of instruction on birds and bird watching, and then we can kind of spread out in the park. So it's been very challenging trying to find things that are not confined to do. And then last point of the SALT events is monthly dates. So a couple years ago, we tried to start having monthly dates to give you guys a reason to come out and date. So I know if we have a purpose, a reason to go out, we make a little more of a point to do it. So it's been a little bit more challenging not being able to meet at restaurants and just go out for dinner. So some of the things that we are hoping to be able to do, we've got cookouts ideas, picnic ideas, a s'mores date, which we tried in the fall on Father's patio. That was a lot of fun. And then a couple other things. But if you have ideas on ways that we can gather, share fellowship as couples, and give people a reason to date, please let us know.
Yep. Another resource would be Redeemer Radio, especially the daily refill that they do now in the mornings. It's great to listen to all the time, but I've really enjoyed listening to it in the mornings on my way into work. They play multiple podcasts throughout the morning, like Father Mike Schmitz, the Kyle Hyman Show. He has lots of different podcasts that they play. The Catholic Cafe, which is really fascinating, and The Word on Fire by Bishop Barron are just a few to name, but there are several other ones that they do as well. And
there have been a couple times where I've happened on Redeemer Radio and said, that podcast was really good, but they didn't say their name enough, so I couldn't go find it later. And if you go to Redeemer Radio to the Daily Refill, they have a blog, and they list all of the podcasts that they played that day.
And they have links to them and everything, so it's actually quite accessible to catch something you may have only caught part of, or re-listen to something you really liked. The next one would be Rekindle the Fire Men's Conference. Since we couldn't have a actual conference in person this year, they're actually doing a video series that's free to view on their website. And the first video is a video with Tim Staples and Father Jacob Meyer. The title of that is Lead Like St. Joseph, so appropriate for this year as well. And that can be found at rekindlethefire.net.
Okay, and our fourth one for tonight is the Messy Family Project. So their mission is to empower parents, strengthen marriages, and bring families to Christ. This is done through their podcasts, short videos, downloadable resources, and live events. A couple of highlights are the Cana 90 program. So this is great to do during Lent, and don't worry about starting late. They do it all the time. A challenge to families to become more of who God is calling them to be, which are communities of life and love. You can get a daily or a weekly email with the reflections and tasks. They also have a 5-week course called the Family Board Meeting. And families are more important than companies, right? So why not have board meetings with your family too? You can make sure that you're all on the same page and just trying to do good things as a family and try and get each other to heaven. So there are so many good programs out there and websites and social media pages for couples and families. Put good information in front of you and be the change in making marriage sacred and not a joke or something to be made fun of.
So,
Oh, I didn't bring the bingo sheet.
okay, last in January, we introduced the date night bingo sheets. How you guys doing on all of those? You guys fill up yours yet? Anybody get theirs filled up yet?
Shane and Andy said they were close.
Okay,
They've
all
got
right.
quite a few.
Very good, very good. So is it helping you to stay on track setting those dates with your spouse? You need to be intentional about dating your spouse. Make it a priority. Once it is set, don't change it. Your spouse and marriage are worth it. Just as a reminder, those empty boxes are not free spaces. You need to fill them in with some of your own ideas. We do have more printouts here tonight if you'd like to have another one or just need one in general. We also will post it on the Facebook page and include it in our next newsletter. And also, like I was saying, if you do have your sheets completely filled up by now, let us know, and we might have a little something for you. And we are so thankful tonight for these 5 wonderful couples who agreed to help us present the 5 love languages. They have been hard at work. Hopefully, it didn't stress them out too much. We appreciate the time they spent to prepare for tonight. We hope you learn something from them tonight. Our first love language tonight is words of affirmation with Chip and Linda O'Neill. Please give them a warm welcome.
Okay, we've already been introduced, but I'm Linda.
So that must
This is
be,
Chip.
I'm Chip, I guess.
Yep, I think so. And we were high school sweethearts, imagine that. And we have been married for 45 and a half years. And I need to show you this. I think he had those made at our 40th.
Might have been the 35th, but
I don't know.
it actually was an idea that Charles and Mary Jo O'Neill, out at one of the masses outside here, had a shirt, and I caught the idea, and these are actually our colors from our wedding. And so, anyway,
Hard to believe.
yep, it was my affirmation to you.
That's right, that's right. And we've been members of Queen of Peace for around 43 years, and we have 4 grown children and 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. So
Yep.
we flourished.
And whatever happens, yes. We're
Yes,
we're very lucky, actually.
Yes.
People always have often asked us how long we've been married or when did you get married, and we always say 1975 BC. And they look at you, you mean AD, 1975 AD. No, BC, before children. But without the children, the grandkids, our life wouldn't be quite as blessed, that's for sure, so.
Or as noisy. or as
Right,
noisy.
but we're involved in a lot of different ministries here at Queen of Peace, and that's probably one of the reasons that Eric and Michelle asked us to come do this, so we're actually here for you, okay? So,
Yes.
But the 5 languages, of course, we start with the words of affirmation, and Linda will start us
Start
with
us
that.
out.
Yep.
We all need to keep our love tanks full. Most of us fall short in expressing our love with words of appreciation and statements of affirmation, like thank you for doing the dishes last night. I know you were tired. Or I really appreciate your hard work cleaning the garage. It was a big job. None of us should use flattery to get what we want from our spouse. That is not the point. When we receive affirming or encouraging words from our spouse, we feel built up. I know I struggle with insecurities, never feeling I do things all that well. Chip has always encouraged me many times during our married life together. That has built me up so that I could go forward, like when I helped at church with choir, or taught religious education. He was always supportive of my endeavors, especially when I felt overwhelmed. Chip had been a coach for numerous years, encouraging football and baseball players to do the best they could. It was not hard to encourage him because he had a talent and was willing to work long hours teaching these skills. Sports was never a talent I had, but whenever we play bags or can jam with our children or grandchildren, he is always encouraging me and telling me how much I have improved, even though I am sure I really have not. But we have a good laugh.
Very good. And when we say I love you, we truly need to say it with a tone of true love. So if we're angry or snarl our words of love, our spouse probably won't feel that loved. If we share our pain or upset with each other's needs, these also may need to be done in a kind manner if we can. It could be sometimes difficult when we're not feeling very lovingly. So we need to strive to be gentle and care for the feelings of each other, really.
I know I struggle and have to take a step back before I can do this. I always think I am over-emotional. When we use loud, harsh words, we definitely are not expressing love, but condemnation. A softer voice usually works better, and we shouldn't expect our spouse to jump back at us with a hurtful defense.
We all need to put ourselves into each other's place, really. If you can look from the other perspective, that sometimes helps. I know I never like to, like a lot of people, be put on the defensive side of things. We have to try to understand where each of us is coming from. And if you can do that, that could be of help. Seek to explain your motivation kindly and try to realize there are more than one way to look or to accomplish something.
Remember that we cannot take away what we have said once it is said. If we say hurtful words, we need to ask for forgiveness and try not to hurt our spouse. If we have been wronged, should we opt for justice or forgiveness? Do we want to promote intimacy? If we do, we want to choose forgiveness. Do we really want to hurt our spouse? I know I do not want to keep a long-standing tab of mistakes on Chip. I sure do not want him to do that with my mistakes, that's for sure.
I'm sure I'm like many of you. There have been times in our marriage when we have said or done things that were somewhat hurtful to our spouses. And once you realize that that has taken place, at least for me, oftentimes I ask for forgiveness and say I'm sorry big time, and a lot of times those were accompanied with tears. But I knew that I was wrong in those situations, but I also knew I loved her so much. So otherwise, if I didn't, I probably wouldn't have apologized. So.
When we make demands, we become more like a parent or a boss when we are equal partners. We all have desires, and we do not want them to come across like demands, or we are destroying being able to develop an inmost cherished relationship. You are proclaiming his or her value and abilities when you make a request of your spouse.
Yeah, making a request is more than a demand. That's the good side. So instead of saying like, hey, are we ever going to have a good meal around here? Maybe you could say, hey, darling, is it possible that we have that delicious pasta meal you're famous for, and try to go approach it the right way. So.
We all hold the key to changing the emotional climate of our marriage, and that key is to convey verbal appreciation for things about the other, and to suspend the complaints about what we do not like. Write down the positive traits and make a concerted effort to give them compliments on that trait once or twice a week. Let us find the love language that works for each of us.
Words of affirmation are one of the 5 basic love languages, as you'll hear the other speakers tonight. If you are not a person who uses words and you think it is the language of your spouse, you might want to just keep a little notebook entitled Words of Affirmation. Come across articles or movies you've seen or people talking or friends or whatever, and you come up and you hear words that might be in that particular range of affirming your commitment and relationship, just jot it down. You know, our minds oftentimes don't, handle everything, but if you jot things down, it'll always be there for you, so then you can refer back to it, and then you have some kind of speech to give to your spouse and help you out. So, that was one thing there. And you give credit to your spouse, possibly when talking to friends. And sometimes she'll hear about that and maybe, oh, he does think about me. So,
Yes, affirm your spouse in front of others. When Chip was receiving a football and baseball award, he always said kind things about me. I definitely felt affirmed by those comments. Set a goal to compliment each other every day for a month. You may want to record these compliments so you do not duplicate them.
yep. I'm trying to think if I could actually, if you would actually fill a whole month's worth for me. I don't know if you could do that.
I'm
But
sure I could.
I mentioned about making a compliment to while you're with a group of friends. If you're with her parents, for sure, or his or her parents, and make nice comments about it. You get a little rub in the back for that, I'm sure. So, the fact is, always just be nice. That's the best way about it.
Yes, definitely. We all have strengths. Tell your spouse how much you appreciate those strengths. Be specific. Like, I love how you joke with our friends at church.
Joke with a lot of people, but we do it, a lot of times it's for spice, as I say, but I've had to cut back on my spice a little bit because it gets carried away, but it's for fun. But you can leave a note or a text or email a note of affirmation during the day. If you travel out of town or something like that, just text back saying you made it home safe or you made it there safely, and that kind of stuff. But at the end of many of my texts that I get to Linda, I put at the very end in big bold prints, LYM. Now, we may have been the first ones to do all this stuff on the computers with the LOL and IDK and all those things. Some of them I don't even know what they are. I still don't even know what LOL is, really. I thought it was lots of laughs or lots of luck or whatever. So you guys, well, anyway, I always put LYM, and this is something we've said for years and years. I can't remember how far back it went, but it's been a long, long time, and that means love you muchly, LYM. So that's sort of our bravado, I guess. So.
Well, we're finished, and hopefully we have shared some helpful ideas with you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, wait a second. I got one more story real quick. I got it. I knew our marriage would last, well, I knew for a long time, but especially I think it was our 30th anniversary, and at that point we were down to basically giving each other's cards for our anniversaries, trying to save our money and stuff. So anyway, our parents were alive and living in LaPorte, and we'd go there every weekend or every other weekend. And around the time of our anniversary, one of us bought a card in LaPorte, and the other one bought it at the CVS here up by Bittersweet there and by our house. So we'd go to give each other the card, and we open it up on our anniversary, and there's the same doggone card. The same card. You got to be kidding me. So I knew that was a sign of good things to come. So thank you very much.
All right.
I believe most of you know us. My name is Paul Rossworm. This is my wife, Melissa. We've been parishioners here at Queen of Peace for about 10 years. We have 4 kids. Evan is a senior at Penn, planning to attend Purdue in the fall for data sciences. Renee is also at Penn as a freshman. Claire is here at Queen of Peace and is a 7th grader, and Lucas is also here at Queen of Peace and is 4th grade. We both grew up in Rochester, which is about an hour south of here. Melissa is a native Zebra. And my family moved into town when I was in kindergarten, so almost native. We were actually in the same kindergarten class. She and I were in the same circle of friends throughout middle school and high school, and I finally got the nerve to ask her out to a Christmas dance our senior year, and we've been together ever since. So, like the O'Neills, we're high school sweethearts. Our relationship has survived 5 years at Purdue, 3 summers with her in Detroit on internship, while I was in Rochester working 1 summer actually with her dad building houses. We managed to plan a wedding together while apart, and during our dating years we learned to cherish our time together, especially if we were apart for several months at a time. We've been together for 25 years, dating, married for 19. Michelle and Eric asked us to present a love language for tonight, and we decided quality time would be an easy one for us, as it's been important during our marriage. We recently took the love language quiz, and quality time was both for us number 2 on the list at around 30%. So obviously we enjoy spending time together, but as a couple, we need to consider if the time that we're spending together is truly quality time. Each person in a marriage is pulled in so many different directions during the day: work, kids, family, financial concerns, cooking, cleaning, volunteering, pets, you name it. List goes on and on and on. But every single one of us has 1,440 minutes during the day, and we should make it a point to share some of those minutes, giving undivided attention to each other.
From the book, there are 4 aspects of quality time: focused attention, quality conversation, learning to talk, and quality activities. The first one, focused attention, can simply mean no distractions. So no children hanging on your leg, no TV on, no phone, no internet, no playing video games in the background. If these are distractions and they are present, then you might physically be in the same room together, but you're not engaged in discussion or quality time. The second point, quality conversation, focuses on what we are hearing rather than what we are saying. It means listening, asking questions to understand your spouse, and having a genuine desire to understand each other's thoughts, feelings, and desires. So some practical tips to foster quality conversation include maintaining eye contact when you're talking. That helps your mind from wandering. Don't try to listen to your spouse and do something else at the same time. I am very guilty of that because I am a multitasker. There's a lot going on in my world, and I feel like I can do things, but it might not be 100% divided attention. But spending true quality time with someone involves giving them their undivided attention. If you can't stop your task at that time, tell your spouse the truth. Respond positively by saying that you're interested in what the other has to say, but you can't give your full undivided attention. Ask for 10 minutes or so to finish up your task, and then you should be able to sit down and talk, and hopefully your spouse will respect that. Listen for feelings. Ask yourself, what emotion is my spouse experiencing? When you think you have the answer, confirm it. For example, it sounds to me like you are feeling disappointed because I forgot, fill in the blank, whether that's taking out the trash, doing the laundry, remembering to feed the kids, I don't know. Hopefully not. This helps to clarify feelings and shows that you're listening intently. Observe your body language. Clenched fists, trembling hands, tears, eye movements, those give you clues as to what the other one is feeling. Refusing to interrupt. Do your best to let your spouse talk and just listen. Refrain from defending yourself or hurling accusations at your spouse. It might be difficult, but it will also be appreciated by your spouse. The learning to talk aspect could require some extra effort. If your spouse's primary love language is quality time, then they will really feel connected when you share your true thoughts and feelings. The book suggests trying to write down your feelings throughout the day to help you remember events and corresponding feelings. Do this exercise 3 times a day, and you will begin to develop this awareness of your emotional nature. Share your emotions with your spouse at the end of the day, and in a few weeks, you'll feel much more comfortable if it's a struggle for you. Remember, emotions are neither good nor bad, just our psychological reactions to our events in our life.
Quality activities is the last feature of the quality time love language. If this is your love language, then the activities aspect is the most obvious outward sign. This may include anything in which both or one of you has an interest. The emphasis is not on what you are doing, but on why you are doing it. The purpose is to experience something together, to walk away feeling like she cares about me. She was willing to do something with me that I enjoy, and she did it with a positive attitude. That is love, and for some people, it is the loudest love language. One important byproduct of quality activities is that they provide a memory bank from which to draw in the years ahead. Whether you plant a garden together, play a board game, go hiking, work out together, visit a winery with friends, you are spending quality time together, and these memories are rooted in love.
So what is our experience with quality time? It was difficult when the kids were little, just as I'm sure most of you have experienced, but when our parents were available to watch our kids, we tried to have a special dinner date or attend a movie or a concert together. We used to enjoy planning and cooking dinners together, but our evening schedules are very hectic at the moment, and so that doesn't happen too often, but hopefully we can get back to that sometime. As our kids have gotten older, we like to just go out to dinner, the 2 of us, go for walks in the park, meet for lunch during the week, or venture out with friends. Paul likes to play these strategy board games, and I have just a few that I enjoy playing of the many, many, many that are on our shelves. We try to have some family game time, or might even play as a couple if I can stay awake to learn the rules, or if we can choose a game that's not 3 hours long. Can't do those.
If this is your spouse's love language, consider these final thoughts. If you're retired and home together all the time, then you should designate specific times and places for your planned togetherness, or a rendezvous. Ask your spouse for a list of top 5 activities they would enjoy doing with you. Pick one to do each month for the next 5 months. If money's an issue, space out the freebies in between. If you're apart and want to share part of your day with them, take a picture of what you're doing or your surroundings and text it to your spouse. It might help them feel like they're actively involved in your day. Think of an activity your spouse enjoys but brings little pleasure to you: sporting events, crafting, hiking, whatever. Surprise your spouse by setting a date for that activity and give it your best effort.
You could plan a weekend away, just the 2 of you. You could focus on just relaxing together, doing what both of you enjoy. We went to South Haven for a weekend away a couple summers ago and walked the shops and the beach and visited some breweries and wineries. These weekends don't happen too often for us, but we do enjoy them when we get a chance to do them. You have basic chores to do anyways at your house, so why not make it fun while you dust, clean the basement, rake leaves, fold the laundry, paint a new room, whatever. It does make the work go much faster. Those are things we try to do sometimes too, even though the other one might not always enjoy them, depending on what we do. Or you could read the travel section of a magazine or a newspaper and just dream out loud about the places you'd like to go. Whether you actually go there or not, it's fun to imagine them together, and then you might enjoy that you discover another activity that's close to home that you could also do. So we will leave you with one final question to ponder, and it's also on your paper. What in your marriage detracts you from spending quality time together? The end.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Vidrine, and this is my husband, Michael. We are most definitely not high school sweethearts, so sorry to break this train here. We actually met on Catholic Match. I was here in Indiana. I had moved here to go to Notre Dame for my PhD, and halfway through my program, I actually went to Switzerland with the intention of staying there very long term. I moved there on September 7th, 2015, and Michael contacted me on Catholic Match on September 14th, 2017. So after a year and a half, I finally moved back because he insisted that we live in the same place before we get married for at least a couple of months. In 2018, we moved into the area, so in a very short period of time, just a few months, we bought a new house, I started a new job, I finished my PhD, we joined Queen of Peace, and we had a baby. So 2018 was sort of the big year for us. So Elizabeth is almost 2.5 now, and then we had our second, John, on May 1st of this past year, so that was right at the peak of the coronavirus scare, so that was fun. Every 2 days, the birth plan was changing about who was going to be there or not. So luckily, all three of us, the important parts, were all able to be there. And the two kids are right now at our house with Caden Scheiko. Thank you very much. She's wonderful. And they're great. And so I'm working from home right now because of the COVID, and Michael is a stay-at-home dad with the kids, so it's really nice we get to spend so much time together. And then I guess one last thing to know about us is that in 2019, so when Elizabeth was a few months old, Michael and I did the Called and Gifted program together through the Archdiocese, where you learn about sort of the different charisms of the Holy Spirit, and you get to kind of discern what yours might be and think about ways you could try and use them. And very interestingly, we discerned something unusual, which is that in our marriage, so not individually, but in our marriage, we have a charism of hospitality. And so that has been a really interesting sort of walk to walk that I'm sure we could tell you about some other time. But that's just been sort of one more thing in terms of like deepening our marriage that's been important to us.
So gifts. Gifts are concrete ways that we show the other that we're thinking of them and that we value them. I consider a gift to be something that the other person might be interested in, might want, but wouldn't necessarily buy for themselves or make for themselves. They don't need to be big, they don't need to be expensive, but they do need to be thoughtful. No buying like all the movies of James Bond for your spouse for Christmas.
For your spouse.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Is that all you want to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll tell you something that might be shocking. I hate Christmas. I hate Christmas. And it's always sort of been a puzzle to me why I hate Christmas so much, but reading this chapter in the 5 Love Languages book actually helped me understand quite a bit, which is where I sort of have this visceral reaction about the idea of people sort of getting me things just because they're obligated to get me things because it happens to be a day we call Christmas. And it just really bothered me quite a lot. And it's funny because when we first got asked to talk about gift giving, I was like, well, that's weird. Like, I don't notice gifts, you know? Like, Michael has this game to see how long it takes me to notice that he's bought a giant bouquet of flowers and put it on the table, like in the middle of the room. For Mother's Day, he framed some photos and put them up on the wall, and I think he let me go like 12 hours or something. I mean, next to my chair, right? Next to my chair. He let me go 12 hours before he finally like told me that he had got me these gifts, which now I love, now that I know that they exist. So gifts, I never really thought of gifts sort of being my thing, but I realized that the reason why, sort of like the obligation gifts bother me so much is because I really, really do cherish gifts that are given sort of spontaneously. So just as an example, I have a mug that like is pink and has some flowers on it, has like a bunny on it that my dad gave me when I was probably like 6. And that has survived, I mean, many, many moves. It's been brought to different countries with me. I love it, not because it's really like big enough to even have a proper cup of coffee with, but because my dad gave it to me when I was a little kid. And Michael likes to sort of give me small gifts to mark occasions, and so I have found myself readjusting my outfits in the morning to match the piece of jewelry that, he gave me for my birthday 2 years ago or something like that. So having these really tangible mementos means a lot to me. And so being able to sort of reflect on the idea of receiving gifts as a way of knowing love was actually quite resonant for me.
So Catherine asked why I get her gifts.
As a legitimate question.
Yes, legitimate question from her. And I buy her gifts because she's precious to me. She's precious. I remember at Christmas in Switzerland, attending Mass and having a realization, watching the priest clean the chalice, and like having this insight that whenever I would marry her, I should treat her like the priest treats the chalice, precious, sacred, set apart. And so it's important to buy her precious things, or to make her precious things, so that way she understands how precious she is to me. And Catherine is able to understand that I value her in a way that's a lot deeper than she can comprehend, or even necessarily understands her own worth and her own value.
So in the book, they talk about different kinds of gifts, and so if the if the idea is that your spouse speaks the language of receiving gifts, then even small things like picking up cookies after work to bring home for dessert, or making a gift of time, so you make sure that even when it's difficult, you leave work on time so that you can be home on time to give that gift of time and presence to your spouse. These things are really important to someone who has the gift of love as receiving gifts. So, they, as we said before, they need not be expensive. They don't have to be sort of to mark certain days or whatever. They can be spontaneous, they can be made, they can be, tiny little things, but the important thing is to show the other person that you're thinking of them, even if you don't have to be, like at Christmas. So one last kind of thought that I wanted to leave you with is the idea that your spouse can be a gift giver, but God is also a gift giver. And that can have really, really, really profound effects in your life. And so just as a sort of example story, I was going to talk about my engagement ring, which I forgot to wear tonight because I have small children. But I do have a story about it. So when we got engaged, it was sort of a backwards process where we got engaged over the phone while I was living in Switzerland and Michael was in Indiana still. And we started talking about wedding dates, at which point I was like, well, I suppose we're engaged now. So we didn't have a ring, basically. And I didn't want a ring because I was like, why would we spend so much money on getting a ring that I'm probably just gonna, bash into the wall and break it or something like that. And Michael was very insistent that like, no, it is important to me that you have this thing. And so I started looking at rings, and I found this, setting that I really liked, and it was, $1 zillion, and I told him I'd rather have you use that money to buy a plane ticket to come spend Christmas with me. And so we agreed on that. I think I made him agree on that. And God was clearly like, no, this is not how this works. And so when I went back home for Thanksgiving that year, Michael got to meet every single member of my family on both sides in a 2-day span. It was heroic. But also what happened was my grandmother had said, do you have a ring? Don't get a ring. I'm holding your great-grandmother's ring for you. And this is the first time I had heard about this. And so I didn't know what it looked like, but I was like, great, Michael will be happy that I will have an engagement ring. And so it was so interesting because when I finally saw the ring and she was able to give it to me, it was actually, it was a more elaborate, more beautiful version of the ring that I had been hoping to get in the first place. And it's an heirloom, and it didn't cost us $1 million zillion, and it fit, which was amazing. And so it was just very, very clear that this was, God being like, okay, you're not going to do this for yourself, so I'm going to do it for you because I know that this is going to be an important thing for your marriage. Anything else?
I think that's it.
And I think that's it.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. It's strange standing here without an Albon. But I'm Deacon Bob, and this is
Jackie.
Byrne. Just a side comment first, noticing we went from the newest married now to the oldest married. And they were on an iPad and we're on paper. So I think this speaks something to the difference of the time frames here. But it's very good. Nice hearing your sharing. I know I baptized your son. Did I baptize your daughter as well? I was supposed to, and then I think we went out of town on a cruise or something, and I missed it. But anyway, so I'll start out. I was born in Chicago. Go Cubs, go Bears, go Hawks, go Bulls. The sixth of 9 children, raised in a solid Catholic family, went to Catholic grade school, an all-boys military Catholic high school, and 2 years at a Catholic college. And I transferred to the University of Illinois as a junior and met Jackie during the second semester that I was there. She was, and is, attractive, smart, witty, and fun-loving. I was dating another girl at the time. Just 2 or 3 times. So I asked my roommate for advice. He said, date the girl with the shorter hair. So I did.
I was born in Elgin, Illinois, which was only about 22 miles from where Bob grew up. I met Bob in college when I was a freshman and he was a junior. The ratio of boys to girls was 2 to 1. But I was very, very lonely. He was an answer to a prayer. I remember praying in my dorm room in January one night when the whole dorm was empty and I was in my room, telling God I was lonely and I wanted someone like my dad. And I met Bob a short... That's like my dad. I met Bob a short time later and we had our first date in March. On our first date, Bob told me he wanted 12 kids, and I thought, what fool is going to marry you? And we got married 3 years later. What attracted me to Bob was his seriousness about his faith. He went to daily mass. He was funny, he was kind, and he was hunka handsome. So I married him. We've been married almost 49 years. We have 3 sons and 3 grandchildren. We've been retired for almost 9 years, but our retirement doesn't look like other people's retirement because Bob is a deacon. He will celebrate his 10th year as a deacon this May 21st. When he was ordained, he was imprinted with an indelible character or seal. That special character graces Bob to serve the church like Christ serves the church by laying down his life.
So I suppose I should say that the topic we're talking about are acts of service. So when speaking about marriage, sacramental marriage is matrimony. Matrimony is a sacrament of service. And through our married lives, we are to lay down our lives for each other, the total self-gift of ourselves to each other. In the Greek, there are several words for the word love. I know of at least 4. You may know of a dozen more. But eros, which is, sexual, physical love. Phileo, friendship. Hesed, which is covenant and committed love. And agape, which is more like service. All of these are aspects of love that we see in married life. And love is always spelled Service. A couple of scriptures. Can't talk for me without a few scriptures relating to service. Galatians chapter 5, verse 13 says, through love, be servants of one another. And Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says, in humility, count others to be better than yourself. I think when we look at these scriptures and apply them, that can frame a lot for us about how we want to live our lives in terms of acts of service for one another. A lot of times when people are young and dating, they just fall over each other trying to please each other by doing special things for them. And then after they get married, it seems to stop and wither away. Acts of service do not stop once you are married. In fact, they should increase. And I've been thinking most recently, as we get older, I find out that as we start to age more, we need to actually be doing acts of service more for each other because we start to become limited in different ways that we can do things for ourselves, and our spouse picks up the slack for us to help us get through life. Love, and therefore service, is a decision, and when done frequently, it becomes habitual, or in other words, a virtue. Acts of service, even minuscule ones like taking out the garbage, are expressions of love. And love, service, must be freely given. It can never be coerced or forced, because it is a gift.
To give you an idea of how life changed when Bob became a deacon, let me tell you about last Saturday. Last Saturday, Bob left the house early to set up a funeral. He assisted at the funeral, went to the cemetery, did the committal. Then he went to another funeral home to conduct another funeral. He came home at 3 o'clock, ate a sandwich, and went downstairs to prepare to preach at 5 o'clock Mass. Now, not every day is that crazy, but the point is Bob spends a lot of time serving, and sometimes I get agitated. I've had many discussions in the confessional, and sometimes I nag about his time commitments. I don't call it nagging, I'm giving input. And because I worry about his lack of sleep. He doesn't eat when he's on to something, but there's a grace for this, and Bob's gift of service is my gift too.
Thinking about last Saturday, when we do funerals or weddings, we have a ritual book, and when I left, I had all my things in order for me to do the committal service and to conduct the funeral at the funeral home. And about 2 minutes before the funeral that was here, actually we did a rosary at 10, with the funeral at 10:30, I realized I did not have my funeral book with me. And I went into an utter panic, because ritual liturgy is very important to me, and if it's not done smoothly, things just don't flow well, and it's not a very good experience for everybody in attendance. So I got on the phone and called Jackie and left a message for her, because she was out doing a service for her sister. And then when the Mass was done, I left 2 more messages. And then when I left, went and did the committal, I did use Father's book, because I could get enough through there to get through the ritual okay. Came back here, set up, for the evening Mass, and then I'm driving home and realized my phone's been on mute the whole time. So whatever messages she sent to me, I didn't get. I thought I felt the phone vibrate, but it hadn't. I opened it up and said, oh my gosh, she called me a few minutes ago. So I called her right back. She says, I found your book. She went downstairs to work on our talk for tonight, and she was trying to find out my date of ordination. She's looking through the bookshelf, and there is my book. In my aging process, instead of putting it with everything I'm taking to church, I put it back on the bookshelf. So as you get older, you find out that things don't work quite right all the time, and that was a huge service for me, because I could not have gotten through that funeral home using somebody else's book. Every book that a person has their own markings, tabs, Post-it notes, whatever, to get you from place to place. The other funeral would not have gone smoothly if Jackie had not found that book.
And I brought it too.
And she brought it all the way down here to Queen of Peace. We actually passed on Bittersweet Road and didn't know it.
Yeah. Bob has always been an attentive, loving husband, but since his ordination, there's a change. He prays more, he serves more, and he does lay down his life for me. This includes carrying things up and down the steps for me because I don't want to fall and my knees don't always do what they're supposed to do. I'll yell down for him to put stuff in the dryer for me when I hear the washing machine finish. As soon as I walk in the door, almost any time, since I'm the queen of shopping, I yell, "Bob!" and he comes and he takes things down and loads the freezer and whatnot. On the one day where we had really, really bad weather, he didn't want me driving on the ice, so he drove my sister to dialysis. He picks up meals when I'm too tired to cook, but the biggest gift he's ever given me is allowing my sister to come live with us. 15 months ago, she called me, and she was in an abusive situation, and she just had to get out and had no place to go. And I said, "Can she come?" And he said yes, and we're still adjusting. But he serves me by serving her. He's spent hours on the phone conferring with lawyers, helping get her out of a real estate deal she shouldn't have been a part of. He does her taxes, he's helped her with insurance. It's a real gift of love to me, the way he serves my sister.
Jackie is a great cook. I, on the other hand, am limited to boiling hot dogs and nuking burritos in the microwave. Sometimes I'll ask Jackie, "What's for lunch?" She says, "Whatever you make. We have, ham sandwiches you can make." I said, "Would you make one for me? It always tastes better when you make it."
All the time he tells me that.
Not only does it taste better, but really, it's a sign of her love for me when she makes it for me. And it's a little thing, but it's something that I greatly appreciate. Jackie is the, quintessential shopper. Me, I hate to shop.
Purgatory's a mall.
No. Right here, read the notes. My vision of hell is a shopping mall. Not just
You're not
purgatory.
going there, so purgatory's a mall.
I hate to shop. Many times Jackie buys me clothes and brings them home for me to try on, and if they're not the right size, then she takes them back. But she does this for me because she knows I don't like being out. I have this disease called mellitus. So Jackie takes responsibility, as you can see, for shopping, cooking, and cleaning, and so forth. I generally take care of finances, maintenance, yard work, and so forth. Sometimes these areas overlap, and we work together. Like, for instance, we like to do gardening, so I turn over the soil, I plant the flowers, and she supervises. But her biggest service to me is the freedom she gives me to serve you. Diaconal ministry does not work on a set time schedule, and she has sacrificed much in allowing me to minister within the church. I'd like to make two final comments about service. We all need services from our spouse. So when time comes for you to need a service from your spouse, you should request it, not demand it. Request, give direction to love, but demands stop the flow of love. And that comes from the book that we've been reading on the 5 love languages. Another point is that we need to understand each other's needs so that the service we do for them is one that they really appreciate. So this might make it necessary for us to make a list. If you find out that there's certain things that you'd like your spouse to do, maybe make a short list to start out with 3 or 4 items and ask them, make a request of them, not demand them, to see which ones of them, they could start taking up. And then maybe after a month or two, maybe add another request to the list and build slowly on these things. When thinking about serving one another, I was remembering listening to the confirmation meetings that went on, for Judge Amy Barrett when she was asked to be on the Supreme Court. And she's talking about their life at home and what Jesse, her husband, does for her. And every morning, Jesse would say to her, "You're very, very busy. What can I do for you today?" So it's just a way of opening ourselves up to the needs of our spouses knowing that they have needs and their needs could be quite more serious than ours, and being always willing to serve them.
And we're going to end this the way a friend of mine started her marriage with her groom. Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are here to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. God bless you.
Hello,
Everyone.
I'm Robin Todorovich. This is Brad Todorovich. I guess we're somewhere in between. We don't have the iPad. We don't have the paper. We've got everything on our phones.
Sketches and such. It's not as detailed. Forgive us.
So,
Hi.
hi.
Oh, we have to, because this is our love
So
language
our
is
love
touch, you
language
see,
is
so we have to-
touch. So we're not high school sweethearts. Actually, quite the opposite. When I met my husband, I was actually, for lack of a better word, engaged to another man.
Well, not really, you see.
There was no ring, but there had been plenty of discussions. I had been with this man for many years, on again, off again, in a terrible tidal wave relationship. He was a military man, and I grew up military, and I grew up believing I would marry military because that's the life I knew. And in church one Sunday, my mother, who hated the man I was with, hated.
Everybody said.
Everybody did. Everybody except for me.
Aw.
Only deep down, I wasn't happy. She passed me the bulletin, and there was this baby face young man. And it said, "We're getting a new minister of music." And my mom said, "Look, there's no mention of a wife in his bio."
They also mentioned my age, which was a mistake because I'm 5 years younger than her, so yeah,
So I pointed out
that.
that and the baby face and the fact that he was at Notre Dame, which I was a St. Mary's girl, and I was not going to get my MRS from Notre Dame.
Oh, yes. We're supposed to be
So-
partners here, Notre Dame, St. Mary's, you know.
So I told her it wasn't happening, and then the priest asked if I would, after we had met,
She was
I
my
was
first
his
singer, my
first
first
cantor.
weekend at this church. Our Lady of the Lake in Edwardsburg, by the way.
I taught Sunday school, and I'm a teacher, and the priest asked me if I would help him start a children's choir because he had no clue about children. I
really didn't.
I still believe this was his way of getting us together
Perhaps.
because he also had met the man I was with and did not like him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Did
Yes.
I know? Okay.
One terrible night or day for me. Now, he and I had become good friends. He actually knew my entire relationship with the man I was with. It was not hidden. In the church parking lot, we're talking, and he said, "If you and Patrick were to ever separate, would you consider dating me?" And I kind of laughed inside. Patrick and I have been together for almost 10 years. There's no way I'm throwing away that type of history.
What did you say?
And I said, yes, I would consider it.
You said maybe.
I said maybe.
Maybe, that's the exact.
And on the way home, I'm calling my best friend, not to talk about him, but to talk about Patrick, and saying all these terrible things that were going on and how he was treating me so horribly, and how are we going to get through another deployment. And then I offhand mentioned our conversation, and I still remember the intersection I was stopped at when Sarah, my best friend, goes, "What the Hades are you thinking? Do you realize that God," and my friend Sarah is not a church-going person, "has put this man in your life? The Rosary Society already believes you're married." So I gave Patrick up one Lent, and by Easter,
Yeah,
he and I were a couple.
well, we were a couple,
We were,
January 1st, and she's talking about Lent, so it was, yeah.
yes.
That
So
goes,
we were not high school sweethearts. It was a little bit more convoluted than that.
you might say.
Obviously, being with somebody in deployment is hard for somebody with the love language of touch. I suffer from an anxiety disorder, and you wouldn't know it because I'm a performer. But even this little touch
Notice this has been
is-
going on because I know she's a little
is
bit.
strength-giving. So I'll let him take it away with what the
All
book
this time.
says.
Ish. So touch for humans is it's an elemental thing. It's something that our bodies are meant to be touched. Depending on societal norms and things, it's accepted that a handshake, a handshake or hug or a kiss is acceptable as a greeting, communication of love, whereas smacking somebody is universal, I don't like you, So it's something that's elemental for us. Our bodies are meant to be touched, and for a spouse, it's about more than just it's a marital love. It's about any kind of touch, I think. What was I going to say? So touches can be comforting. When somebody who speaks the love language touch it experiences a hug when they're not feeling well, it's going to be remembered. So long after they feel better, they're going to remember that you touched them at the right time, if you will. Sorry.
It's okay.
Struggling.
It helps see.
The whole actions speak louder than words, touches go even farther. It's the one of your senses that is the entire body, not just like you only see with your eyes, you only smell with your nose, you touch with your entire being.
And certain parts of your body are more sensitive to touch than others.
And even the medical world has pointed out the importance of touch with newborn babies, how important that skin-to-skin contact is, and how even, little brand-new child to this world understands the warmth and the touch and the comfort of love in the physical way. If your spouse's love language is touch, as you walk from the car to go shopping, reach out, hold your spouse's hand. Something as little as that and as childish and high school seeming as that.
It's not at all.
It's
It's
not.
so special.
I like number 2.
What is it?
I get teased when I shop because I have to touch everything. COVID is not good for me because I can't reach up and touch all the fabrics. If somebody is wearing a nice fuzzy shirt, I can't say, "Can I touch that?" When you shop for your spouse, look for things that will appeal to their tactile nature, like a cashmere sweater, a plush throw pillow, or soft pillows. When you say "I love you," don't just say it, but say it while touching or while hugging. we can't do this. Sit together in church and reach over and hold your spouse's hand during times of prayer
There's room on the organ bench, dear, I told you. You can play the feet, okay?
with all 3 children. By the way, I hope he's doing okay. We also have one of her children with our children right now.
My former students, I love it.
When your friends or family are visiting, it's very important, and I know I get swept away in this. When people are at the house, I'm focused on my guests, but stopping and giving a hug or a kiss to your spouse, saying, even with all these people around, you
Even
are
the kids are being
important to me.
crazy, right?
That's every day,
Yeah,
all
of course,
day.
of course.
And suggestions for if you are distanced. A handwritten letter feels more tangible than an email, or the whole girlfriend or wife stealing the sweater or shirt to feel closer. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
To feel closer to our
I have many hoodies.
spouse.
I should give you a hoodie.
And for the your turn,
Recall some non-sexual touching times that enhance intimacy between the two of you. What made those times special for you as a married couple?
thank you.
Thank you for saving me, dear. Forgive me.
All right, well, thank you so much to our couples. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. My heart is just bursting over here. I'm so thankful that we have such wonderful couples of our parish that are willing to come up and share their story and how to make our spouses feel loved. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Is there anyone here that has any questions? Questions on love languages or, okay, great. I'll ask again when we come back together for closing. For those of you watching live stream, feel free to type questions in the chat if you happen to have them. And there is a little bit of a delay, so if you have a question, type it in right away, and hopefully we'll see it. Now we're going to give you a little bit of couples time. So we encourage you to take the 5 love languages quiz. Even if you've taken it before, it should only take 3 or 4 minutes. Each question you'll pick between 2 options. And go with your gut on the answer. Don't read it over and over and think about it too hard. You can find a QR code on your handout. So if you have a smartphone, you can just scan that with your camera, and the quiz will come up on your phone. Online, if you're using our interactive PDF, just click or tap on it. And then we do have printouts here tonight. So if you don't have your smartphone with you or you don't want to use it, feel free in a second to raise your hand, and Eric will bring those around. Now, most people have a dominant love language, but don't forget about the secondary ones too. So if you take the quiz on your phone, I do suggest taking a screenshot of your results. I kept forgetting what my answers were, so I had to go back and take the quiz again. And then during couples time, talk with your spouse about the results and how you can make each other feel loved. There are also a few questions on your handouts back here that if you run out of things to talk about, you can go through those. If you're here in person, you're welcome to use the gathering space, or as long as you're quiet and reverent, you can stay here in the church and feel free to spread out. Remembering that there are microphones here near the front, so you guys may want to move away from the microphones if you'd like to talk personally. So we are going to give you about, we'll give you about 10 minutes. So I was hoping to have a little bit longer, but that's all right. So go ahead and get your quiz done and share your results. And then we'll gather back together for closing prayer. And then Eric's going to hand the handouts out. We do have the live streaming stopping at 8:30, which is in 10 minutes. So for those of you that are at home, we were going to finish with the Litany of St Joseph, which is also in the PDF. So when you're done talking about your love language, please say that together. So all right, we'll give you about 10 minutes. If you need a handout, go ahead and raise your hand.